Chapter 9. The Closer Relative. By the deeds of the law, no flesh shall be justified. Romans 3 verse 20. Now it is true that I am a closer relative. However, there is a relative closer than I. Ruth 3 verse 12. Boaz was certainly very interested in performing the role of a kinsman redeemer for Ruth. He wasted no time in acting. However, there was a problem. Naomi had a closer relative than him. This matter needed to be settled and made clear. According to the Levirate law, because he was a closer relative, he had the first choice in redeeming Ruth. Boaz showed himself a man of integrity in every step he took. He could have taken advantage of Ruth and deceived her, but rather he showed himself a man of integrity every step of the way. By his actions, Boaz showed Ruth that his love for her was very genuine. In the passage, we see him encourage Ruth to lay by his side until morning. Ruth 3:13, thereby covering her, not exposing her or embarrassing her. He respected her and made sure she did not lose her honor. He made sure that she departed before anyone could recognize her. Ruth 3 verses 11 to 14. Boaz wanted to ensure that no one saw her depart from the threshing floor. He truly meant to help her and not bring reproach or slander towards her. He acknowledged the sacrifice she made. He said, "For you have shown me more kindness at the end than at the beginning." Ruth 3 verse 10. Ruth returned to her mother-in-law, laden with 6 ephahs of barley. A man of true worth will honor his intended. He will uphold her virtue and not compromise with her. He will honor her by marrying her. Proverbs 18:22 says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord." Boaz was a mighty man of wealth and a mighty man in the knowledge of Holy Scriptures. What a combination! He was also a man of respect and authority. He was known at the city gates. By divine providence, the close relative happened to pass by the city gate at the right time. Ruth 4 verse 1. This close relative was then asked to sit down, and 10 elders of the city were also invited to sit down as witnesses. When God is given his rightful place, he makes complicated issues simple. Isaiah 40 verse 4, Isaiah 45 verse 2. Boaz then told the story of how Naomi came back from Moab and had to sell her inheritance, the family plot of land. He then invited the close relative to play his role and buy back the plot of land on behalf of Naomi and Elimelech. On hearing this, the close relative was interested in buying back the land belonging to his relative. He quickly said, "I will redeem it." Boaz then smartly told him that if he decided to buy the field, he would also have to take up Ruth, the Moabitess, as his wife. At that point, the close relative, Naomi's kinsman, refused to repurchase the land. The initial thought of obtaining land on behalf of a defenseless widow seemed very appealing to the close relative. However, when it came to playing the role of Goel, meaning to raise up children on behalf of the dead, he became disinterested. Raising up children on behalf of the dead did not appeal to Naomi's kinsman. He was afraid it would ruin his own inheritance. Ruth 4 verse 6. The closer relative then asked Boaz to buy it himself, and he confirmed this by taking off his sandal and giving it to Boaz in the presence of 10 elders at the city gate. This was the custom in former times in Israel concerning redeeming and exchanging. Ruth 4 verse 7. This action confirmed the sale of all that belonged to Elimelech, including all that was Chilions and Marlons, from the hand of Naomi. Ruth 4 verse 9. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God did by sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh. Romans 8 verse 3. The closer relative in this story represents the law, while Boaz represents the Son of God in the flesh. It was unusual for a wealthy landowner to find significance in a defenseless widow. It is by his mercy that God loved the world. He sent his only Son to die on the cross. Despite our helplessness and pitiful condition, God showed mercy. He brought back that which was lost through his Son Jesus Christ. Boaz is a type and shadow of Christ in that he brought back, he redeemed Elimelech's and Naomi's land. Naomi and Ruth had no power to buy it back by themselves. They could not claim their inheritance. We have no power to claim redemption except through the blood of the Lamb. We have been redeemed from the curse of the law by him who knew no sin. He became sin that we might become the righteousness of God through Christ. Naomi and Ruth were despised by their closer relative. He was only interested in the selfish and personal gain. In other words, he was only interested in the money. The poor and the defenseless are often despised by the society we live in today. People prefer to associate or identify themselves with wealthy relatives, wealthy friends, and powerful and popular people. The poor are often sidelined and rejected. The poor are often mocked and can be found in very lonely places. Proverbs 14 verse 20 says, "The poor man is hated even by his own neighbor, but the rich has many friends." The poor and defenseless person is often the one who sleeps on the street, in the shop doorway. It could be the lonely beggar on the street corner, your elderly neighbor, the neglected child, the abandoned wife, that poor person you pass every day. A poor and defenseless person can also be invisible, suffering mental abuse behind closed doors. A person who does not know Christ can be described as a sinner, but also a poor and defenseless person. They are poor in spirit and are defenseless against the schemes of the enemy. They are ignorant, often found bound in fetters and chains. Hurt and pain do not wear a label. These are people we see every day. The broken-hearted and rejected are everywhere. When Jesus was around, he reached out to these people. They were his ministry. He was anointed to preach good tidings to the poor, heal the broken-hearted, proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of prison doors to those who are bound. Isaiah 61 verse 1. It will surprise you what families are going through, even in the house of God. They may come in with smiling faces, but they may not have the courage to discuss the reality of their situation. When Jesus was around, he made himself a friend to the poor and the needy. He was a friend of sinners. He did not despise them. Isaiah 61 verse 2 says, "Comfort and console those who mourn, to give them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, and the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness." In the world we live in today, the fatherless and the widows are often candidates for marginalization and oppression. This is the heart of Jesus concerning the afflicted. James 1 verse 27 says, "Pure and undefiled religion is this, to visit orphans and widows in their trouble, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world." In Christ, the fatherless will always find mercy. Hosea 14 verse 3. He is the helper of the fatherless. The helpless always commit themselves to him. Psalm 11 verse 14. For the woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, the Lord your Maker, your husband, will enhance you with everlasting kindness and mercy. Isaiah 62 verse 5. He causes the widow's heart to sing for joy. Job 29:13. He is eyes to the blind. Job 30:15-17. He is feet to the lame. He is a father to the poor, and he breaks the fangs of the wicked and plucks the victims from his teeth. The world system is tailored to keep nations and people in constant debt, which is bondage. This system condemns justice. It contradicts the Bible and is in enmity against God. The poor and needy will always find mercy and grace at the feet of Jesus. Ruth and Naomi found mercy and grace with Boaz. Let the weak say, I am strong, says Joel 3 verse 10. Has God not chosen the poor of this world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom? James 2 verse 5. Ruth was a woman rich in faith, and she received a promise. The kingdom of heaven belongs to those who are poor in spirit. Matthew 5 verse 3. He who has mercy on the poor, happy is he. Proverbs 14 verse 2.